Honey, we need to chat.
Hello, welcome back.
Welcome back to another episode.
Honey, we need to chat.
Let's get our chat on.
That wasn't even prepared. It was
Wasn't.
a little
I started to
rehearsed.
prepare.
Yeah.
No, I started to do it. Then you said, I
said the wrong thing,
and then
yeah.
I had to start again. So half of it was rehearsed.
But it was
a
beautiful.
second.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to Honey, We Need to Chat. We are a podcast all about communication in relationships, and we believe that when communication dies, bad things happen.
That's right. We don't want bad things to happen.
We do
Stay away
not.
bad things.
So that's why we do what we do.
Chat
So
about
welcome
it.
with us. We're going to dive right in, I reckon,
Yep, let's do it.
to our tea time, tea chat.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're doing.
What were you
now.
going to do?
I was going to go to the next part.
Let's do tea time, tea
Let's
chat
do
first.
tea time, tea chat.
Our new segment, tea chat, catching up over our tea.
I really want to experiment with different teas now because it's tea time, and I want different mugs.
You don't like your Mandalorian?
No, I do, but I want it to be a thing that we have different
I'm
mugs.
with you.
But I don't have another mug.
I would love to replace our mugs and get a nice,
I meant like more funny ones.
but like,
money mugs.
yeah, that's what I meant to.
Yeah, same. All right, cool. Let's
All right.
get into it. So,
Tea chat.
how are you out of 10, my dear?
Well, I've got a headache, but I think I'm probably an 8, cruising along
Nice.
pretty good. What about you?
No, I'm good. I'm probably a 9.
Mhm.
I reckon I'm good. In this moment, I'm good, but I know probably midway through this podcast, I'm going to dippity dip in tiredness. Where I am currently sleeping on the couch.
Yes, he is.
I've been a bad boy. No, I am trying to sleep train our 1.5-year-old who is just in Struggle Town, and we are struggling to sleep, and he is struggling to sleep. So I'm struggling even more to sleep by trying to get him to sleep. So
In hopes that we may all sleep eventually. Yeah.
So I'm sleeping on the couch, and so I'm quite tired.
You have been taking a massive one for the team, so thank you.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
It's good. I mean, it's good that I think we've been putting this off for a while.
We have, and I kind of wish we'd gotten onto it a bit earlier, but it's what it is.
Yeah.
Did you vibrate?
I did.
Tell Jared to piss off.
Jay,
Jared,
you heard.
piss off.
Stop messaging me.
Yeah, so you're very tired. It's been a bit of an out of routine sleep week because then the older kids have been ending up in bed with me.
Yeah, because they're all in the same room.
Yeah.
So when
All
our
4 in the
youngest
same
wakes
room.
up, it wakes everyone up.
Yeah.
And then so I'm just telling them to come straight into your room, into our room, into our bed, so
So they
that
can
way
sleep.
they can sleep, and I'll just keep wrestling with our youngest.
It's been a fun sleepover,
Yeah.
but
I've been hearing chatter in the bedroom, like, guys, yes.
guys, you're in there. You should be sleeping. Anyway, but we're good.
I have also, as you know, I've got these new things for my ears called
Loop.
ear loops, or loop buds.
Sponsor us, Loop.
Please sponsor us. Anyone, please sponsor
Anyone
us.
sponsor us.
Anyway, so again, you would have heard us talk about, we think that I might have ADHD. Something that is making us think that, one of the reasons is making us think that is when I'm with all of the kids and all of the noise and everything going on, I get very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And my brain shuts down and I just cannot process what's going on. Anyway, I started wearing my noise cancelling headphones out with everyone, which are these big bulky things. And I noticed that like I could actually process stuff. It was quite strange. So anyway, we've got these ear loops, which are meant to be good for this. So we're giving it a go. Today's day 1 and we were out in the lounge room. I was sitting down. It was chaos and I felt so calm.
Zen.
I felt so calm. It literally felt my brain was lighter.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
That's wild.
It was a physical feeling in my brain.
They have been really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's a good update.
Good.
Something I was thinking about this week, and I've actually been kind of mulling on it for a couple months, but this week is slightly different. I feel like as parents, especially, but just as adults, especially the older you get, the more responsibilities you have, it's easy to just feel like there's not many good times. Like every time is just mostly like, there's always a burden. And I definitely fall into that category. I don't know how universal that is, but I'm a more anxious person and I am a bit of a worrywart. I will find that I kind of assume that there's always something to be worried about. But today, something that I was thinking about over the last few days is that to some extent, you can just decide to be happy. And it sounds a bit like maybe dismissive, But there's been quite a few times where I'm like, oh, I just feel stressed and annoyed and down and burdened or whatever is going on. And I'll be like, or it's actually not that bad. And I always make myself laugh and then be like, actually, this is a really good day. And it honestly changes how I feel inside.
Yeah. And I think as well, when you can take a step back from everything too, it just helps you see clearer, right? Because I feel like as you get older, it's just more full. Like everything seems more full. So when you can step back, like so for me going for a walk with Bonnie, it helps me take that step out of my environment. Because again, we work from home, everything's at home. So going for a walk breaks me from that environment, and it's like, oh, I can see now. It's clearer now, or whatever else.
The birds are out. The sun is out.
Chirp, 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 chirp.
Chirp. Yeah. So that's my thought.
Nice.
Good
thought.
Tat. Chat.
Good
Tea-chat.
tat. Good tea-tat. Great.
Ding.
So we, this week, we put out a survey on our socials. And I want to say thank you so much for everyone that actually wrote in. And seriously, we got a lot of write-ins, which was great. And so we just put a survey out. We've done over 20 episodes now. So thank you, everyone, for following along. It has been an absolute joy to do this. So much fun. And we put this survey out to get your feedback. And we want to be doing that. We want to be bringing content that is actually relevant to you. So for, the thousands of people that are actually listening in, we want to be, making content that's relevant. We want to be speaking to you. We're not necessarily chasing all these new people. We want to be speaking to you right now. So if you want that survey is going to stay open. We're going to leave that open. But we did put a competition out there for the first few, 10 people that actually submitted a survey that we were going to do a prize, which is going to be announced this week. Yeah.
The giveaway is closed, but the survey will remain completely open.
So what we're going to do today, we're actually going to take one of those. So on the survey, there's a survey / questions / stories / whatever else on there. So we're actually going to address one of these write-ins today for today's topic. Also, there's another section on our website that one of the feedback that we got was
many people suggested this actually
was for there to be an anonymous section on our website, so you can submit a story. We won't know who you are, and you can just be like, hey, this is my stuff, and we can bring it up onto the episode, onto the podcast. So that's on there. So honeyweneedtochat.com. And notice I didn't say www.honeyweneedtochat.com. Thank you very much. So you can go there, go onto the website, and you'll see the top there, submit your story. So go do that. And that's great. That's a new feature. So well done, Ames, for putting that together.
And for the people suggesting it. We had been saying it would be anonymous, but had not even thought about putting it actually anonymous so that we don't even need to know who you are. Yeah. So I think it's a good progression.
Absolutely. Another bit of feedback that we got was that you guys have told us that you enjoy hearing from other listeners, which is awesome. So, and a little bit offensive. No, it's not offensive. It's actually really exciting to me because I'm like, we're starting to get to that point that we envisioned, which was to create a community of people that are invested in growing in their relationship with their partners or in preparation for their future partner. And that's happening on Patreon. So shout out to our chatters on Patreon. That's happening on through write-ins and everything else. And we just want to say thank you so much. So that's why we're actually going to do this. We're going to stick around to the end because we're actually going to be sharing a write-in. And it's not a topic for us to discuss necessarily. It's just something that we're going to share, which is, again, it was another amazing write-in, and I was so encouraged by it.
We've been sitting on this one for a while too, so glad we can finally share that.
Absolutely.
Podcast.
Great. So we're going to go through, I'm just going to break it down to different sections, and we're going to address it one point at a time.
One by one.
Cool. So the topic was balancing interests and hobbies that each person has when they don't match.
We know this one.
As you would have heard us say many, many times, Amy and I are complete opposites. We don't really enjoy much of the same things. We don't operate the same way. We think a lot more similar now because I think that's just going to happen the more that you grow with someone. You're going to start thinking the same way. But this is quite things. Yeah, absolutely. So this is quite relevant to us. We don't have the same hobbies. And very rarely. I'm trying to think of one.
I mean, some of our shows I would probably put into that category, but not.
But even in that though, like I really struggle to sit down and watch TV for a long period of time and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so it's we have half hobbies. You know, like there's things that we connect over more than other things, but Yeah.
So we definitely have different interests, and I don't necessarily know that we've found a super healthy way to do it. It's not unhealthy, but I'm not sure that it's like,
this is the way.
this is the way. We tend to spend our hobby time separate for the most part. And we're happy to do our hobbies. We do them at the same time. Blair will do his, and I will like be out in the lounge room doing mine. And they're just time to ourselves to unwind and have at the end of the day. And then we do intentionally try to connect over certain things regularly as well. So we'll have a show that we're watching, or every now and then we'll do like a games night, or we started doing puzzles for a while. We didn't finish that. We haven't gone very further.
And then your dad died.
My dad died. Honestly, yeah.
We got a phone call.
In the middle of doing
in the middle of
puzzle,
a puzzle, and we haven't done
man.
a puzzle since.
It's not funny, but it's funny because I'm a bit triggered by puzzles. But in theory, they were really fun. And I remember at the time being like, "This is a great idea." Next minute, anyway. So yeah, and then there's bigger things. So Blair is a much more active person. He's much more outdoors. Things like camping, going on hikes, going on walks, and that kind of thing. And that's definitely not what I would choose to do. But there's times where we've prioritized doing that because I know it's important to him. And same as things that I would choose to do that aren't his favorite things, he's prioritized doing that at times to connect with me over that. It's not, I think we could be more regular at that. At the moment, capacity is hard too, because we just don't have tons of time.
And energy levels. And I think that's one big thing as well, is actually what need is that hobby meeting?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's a big thing. So for me, one, being outside is one of them, or it's even inside, but it has to be social. Like I need that human interaction, that social interaction and so forth, where you're opposite. You're like, indoors all the way by yourself is great.
It's recharge.
It's exactly right. We recharge in different ways.
Yeah.
So it's understanding what the need of the hobby is, what that's actually filling for us. But then the biggest thing is like, well, how are you connecting? I don't think having different hobbies is a bad thing. I think that it is a bad thing if you're not connecting over anything. So that's been us. And that's, again, the importance of date nights. It's the importance of, going away. It's the importance of us investing in ourselves. It's the importance of us doing this podcast together. Probably the hobby that we have together actually is the podcast. So it is finding what is unique to you guys. Don't have to have the same hobbies, but how are you investing in each other?
Yeah. And communicating about where you're at with your needs, because for me, it really is important for me to have alone time. I actually don't mind if you're there, but that alone time is really important. It can't be high social, and for you, you really need social stuff. So if we were to try and navigate each other's hobbies and needs in that space as if they were our own, it would be not meeting what we needed. And until we're able to communicate the importance of those things to us, it's not going to sink in. And so same as like, going outside, going for walks, being a bit more adventurous. If you are really, really needing that, and you're feeling in a deficit of that, and you're feeling a disconnect in that, and you're not getting that time with your partner, then you need to communicate that. I reckon hobbies, there's tons of space for grace in this space. You don't have to be the same as each other. You don't have to worry that your relationship's rocky if you don't enjoy doing the same things, because if you're in a relationship with people, you will most likely have things that you enjoy doing together. So there's common ground enough to build a relationship. You need to be careful with your needs in that space, though.
And the other part too is your hobby neglecting something else?
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, this is just one example, right? You hear a lot about how the guy will go do golf and he's neglecting the stuff that needs to be done at home, or he would rather go golf than spend time with his partner. Like that sort of stuff is not okay. It has to, hobbies meet your individual needs, but you also have relational needs. Yeah. So as long as those are being met, the hobbies are fine if they're different, in our opinion.
Yeah. And one thing I think we wrestled with at the beginning was feeling like each other's hobbies were valid, or each other's interests were valid, not necessarily hobbies. And one thing that's interesting about being an inside person and not as active of a person is I've grown up with this idea, at least, that people judge me for that they're like, you're not as good a person because you don't like being outside. And that really irritated me, because there's exercise and being healthy, and then there's enjoying the outdoors and exploring. And I don't think there's a moral rating on if you enjoy being inside or not. And so coming to terms for myself that it's actually okay for me to enjoy having cozy days at home. Like that's okay for that to be what I prefer. I'm not a bad person or a lazy person because of that. And it's okay for you to prefer to be outside and be active and be moving. Like that's okay. It's not because of any moral thing. It's just who you are.
Yeah.
And so understanding that about each other, I think was really important, and allowing that space for each other to have those times that you are doing what you enjoy. Yeah. But yeah, there's so much wiggle room. There's so much wiggle room. And I feel like before coming into our relationship, I felt couples needed to do more together or to be exactly interested in exactly the same things.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's true.
And we've mentioned many times a lot of people say, we're just not the same. You know, we're just not compatible and all that sort of stuff. And we just don't agree with that. That's just not our approach to it, because we are definitely not the same, but we are very compatible.
There you go.
Yes. But again, this is just our point of view. For you guys, it'll be, you need to have that conversation. You need to explore that. And again, it's not just a matter of, the topic's not just hobbies. It's the whole kit and caboodle. Yeah. What needs are being met, what needs are not being met, and navigating through that. Yeah.
Your preferences, what sits behind those things, who you are, and all of that stuff is a really important conversation. Hey guys, just wanted to pop in and take a sec to talk about the extra content you can find over on our Patreon and our Spotify subscription. We have a fun little community growing over there with extra episodes, extra stories. We're also going to have resources, messages back and forth, and also submitting listener stories through that portal as well. So
also outro themes.
If you want to be a part of our closer knit community here at Honey We Need a Chat, please hop on over to Patreon or Spotify subscriptions and join us there. We would love to see you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Great. All right. So the next one here is transition into parenthood. How to keep romance alive when life adjusts with kids.
Yeah. It is tough.
It's a value. Romance for us is a value. You know, it is not something that you just, and this isn't trying to make, take the fun out of it and make it work. Sometimes trying to have kids is very work. But it's a value for us. Intimacy is a value. Connecting with each other in that way is a value. So I do not get to abuse that. Amy does not get to abuse that and saying like, this is a value, give it to me. It's really about, where are we at with that? How are we feeling? If we haven't been intimate, well, what does that look like for us in 5 years' time? Where do we want to be in 5 years' time, and how are we trying to get there?
Yeah. I have a hot take on this. I believe that your partner should be the most important person to you, and that when your kids come along, there's a huge push for them to be the most important things to you. And I understand, like, I fully get that they do become the biggest responsibility, and so in that way they feel like they're the priority. But I have seen so many people, including us at times, go down the line of you're prioritizing the kids' needs, and I'm doing quotation marks with that, over your partner's needs. And there's just like this divide that happens naturally because it is a time of adjustment and transition, but it just gets bigger and bigger rather than coming back together because couples get to the point where they're like so stuck in these dependencies for their kids that they can't be there for each other. And I actually think that's a really dangerous road to walk down, and it's a really hard road to avoid. So doing the opposite of that and prioritizing your marriage can be really tough. So something we did from the beginning was we went on dates really early on. We had our kids babysat really early on. And I know that's a privilege.
A huge privilege.
Huge privilege, yeah, because we had family that we trusted that wanted to be involved around us. So
and we had the first kids.
And we had the first grandchild on my side, and the other side only had a few at that time. And so there was a lot more freedom in that space for us to have that support. So I recognize this as a massive privilege. But we really prioritize getting out. We prioritize having the baby babysat so that it was honestly more for us. We started strengthening that muscle of not needing to be there all the time for the baby. It's a huge privilege to have the opportunity to take time out as new parents together outside of the home, away from the kids. And so not everyone's going to have that available to them. I think everybody does have available to them time that they can prioritize together, whether it's at home, like the home day nights or not. And so I think one of the biggest ways that couples maybe go awry, with this. And one of the biggest ways they can work on it very early on is being intentional with your partner is your priority. Your baby and their safety and their needs, absolutely a massive priority. You never neglect those, but recognizing that you need to also be prioritizing and connecting with your partner, because marriages, relationships in early childhood struggle big time situationally. It doesn't just magically get better on its own. And then a lot of couples find themselves with kids that are finally a bit older, a little bit more independent, but they have no connection anymore. And I've seen so many posts about that on the groups I'm in, so many posts every single day about how they've lost connection with their partner after they had kids.
Something I wish I knew before having kids was, so 25% of dads will actually suffer from postnatal depression.
Yeah.
You know, and these are some things that it's not really communicated to us, and this is a big thing that we're trying to do with my work, is get this support to dads and families in that perinatal period. So from before birth up until the age of 5, that's our sweet spot, and supporting families in that area. And so understanding what it could look like after having kids. You know, postnatal depression is a real thing.
Absolutely.
Your body goes through so much. Obviously, you know that way more than I do, but my point is like, give yourself grace to have that recovery period to go through what you need to. And guys, support them. You know what I mean? Like, make it about them. We don't go through nowhere near what they go through. So I think that's a big thing. Is I wish I knew that before we had kids. I didn't suffer from postnatal depression until our third kid. But then there was so many other things that were in that season as well, but affected so much. Our intimacy has been something that we have had to actually work through quite a lot through many different reasons and periods of life. But it's just been just like communication. It's communicating, it's talking about it, it's understanding it, it's checking in, it's not expecting, it's showing grace, it's showing support, and it's making it safe.
I think people hold on to things really firmly, like it's a really brittle, firm thing. They're like, this is what it looks like. And then when it doesn't end up looking like that or something changes, it's like, oh, that's broken. And they kind of like throw it away. But one big thing is you just adjust, and you need to be flexible with these things. It's not about, oh, we need to get our romance life to look exactly the way it did before kids. It's just not going to. Just like your physical body's not going to look the same way, just like your mental self is going to be totally different after then. You can't expect it's going to look the same. And I feel like we spend a lot of energy grieving what it doesn't look like anymore, or focusing on it not being what it was, that we don't see the beauty that it could be and the flexible spaces that you have in that you could adjust to. So just like prioritize it, but don't force it to be the same. Figure out what works for you guys.
Yeah. And we have 4 kids and we have a lot of fun. Yep. So, you know.
We go on date nights.
That's right. All right, so this next part is quite long, so I'm not going to go through all of it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up one, and then I'm going to do one on our Patreon for our chatters, and then I'll bring up another one in another week.
Okay, cool.
We're going to break it up down like that, okay? So this one's asking a bunch of questions. I'll go through all the questions, but I'm only going to pick one. They want to know more about us. Okay, so want to know about our proposal, want to know about our wedding story, want to know about the regrets we have, the things we wish we'd done sooner, the things we wish we think were done really well and wouldn't change. That sounds very nosy. No. All right, so let's just go for number 1, proposal. And I think for the chatter story, for the next story, we're going to actually share our wedding story.
Cool.
So if you want to know that,
hop on over to Patreon.
Or Spotify subscription. Proposal.
So as I mentioned on actually when we were recording our 20th episode where we told our story a little bit, Blair had to step out to help the baby. And so I just kind of kept going with our story. And I literally, the words came out of my mouth that he proposed in Spain. Which he
That's
did not.
a lie.
It just came right. I didn't even notice it at the time. It was when I was editing. I was like, what? And I just so confidently said, yeah, Blair proposed in Spain. So then I had to do some fancy editing to make it not say that.
What did it say?
I just repeated the Mediterranean. So instead of saying what country, I just said in the Mediterranean.
Nice.
Because I say that later on. Anyway, I was like, Amy, I've no idea. I mean, I've studied in Spain, so I'm guessing Spain was just on the
Must have
brain,
been.
but it was
Spain
not
on the
Spain.
brain.
It was Greece.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in the internship together, which you would have heard in that episode. And part of that internship was that a group of us were going over to Greece to do a mission trip over there, which Blair had already done the previous year as well.
So
And
I knew
he knew the space.
land.
Yeah. And they did, before diving into the mission trip, there was a little bit of a toury thing that they did, and then we were going to do again this time. And so in the lead up to that, I did get a little suspicious.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
How?
Because you wanted to meet for lunch at the shopping center.
Oh,
and
that's right. What did I do?
Yeah. And so, I was like, I was working. We were both working. And I just get this message and you're like, hey, do you want to have lunch at the shopping center? Which was very bizarre. We never did that ever. And I was like, okay. And then when I was there, you were cuddling me, like had your arm around me while we were waiting for food. And you just casually tried to take the ring that I had on my finger off my finger and play with it. Which you never, ever did. And it didn't come off easy. So I had to kind of pull it off for you. And I was like, why is he doing that? There's only one reason he might want my ring.
Yeah. And so as we've mentioned before, I'm quite a, not spontaneous, quite a impulsive person. And so for me, I'm like, we'd be dating for a little while.
6 months.
6 months, not ages.
Ages. Oh my gosh.
Some of you will be listening to that. I'm like, what you propose after 6 months? That was, for me, I'm like, look, I have zero doubt. I don't doubt that we're going to get married. I'm like, oh, screw it. Like, let's just get it done. I hated dating. I just was not, almost like, it's something in the way to the thing that I've actually been looking forward to for so many years, which is marriage. So I'm like, screw it. Let's get married. Like, why are we waiting? And so I was a smooth sailor and got you ring size. This is all in the span of like
a week.
Yeah.
And it's because I remember like earlier in the year, we were at this, it was actually an engagement party, I think, for my cousin. And one of my other cousins was like, oh, Blair should propose in Greece when you go. And so I had that in my head. And I was like, kind of as we were coming closer to it, I was like feeling it out to see if you were acting like you were going to at all. And we'd had multiple conversations about how we would get married, but I think we'd recently had a conversation about you don't know when.
Yeah.
Or I think we'd gone up to Wodonga and your mum had been like wanting to look at engagement rings. She said that one time when we were at the shops. She's like, let's look at engagement rings. And you got really frustrated and you're like, we don't need to look at engagement rings. And so I was like, oh, it's not on the cards soon.
Oh, really? I don't remember that.
Yeah. And then you went to a Bible study the week before and I wasn't there, but you were there and someone said something to you like, why aren't you getting married? Why aren't you getting engaged? And you had been like, this is what you've told me, that you were like, oh yeah, in my head, you just have to wait a year. But why are we waiting a year? And then so you decided that we were going to get married. And we're going to Greece, so you might as well propose there.
Take the chance, hey?
Yeah.
And I remember, it's all sort of blurry to me. I don't remember everything, but I remember, again, because it was just a week and your dad was
out
overseas.
Of the country, yeah.
So he was in Papua New Guinea. He used to be a helicopter pilot. And I messaged him. I'm like, hey, I just got a question for you. Can I call you? And it was raining and I was at your place and I'm like, oh, sorry, I was going to take this phone call. And it was your dad. So I went out and sat in your car. And I'm like, oh, just real quick, David, I just want to ask you something real quick. I just want to ask Amy to marry me. He's like, well, this isn't a quick conversation that I want to have. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
He's not as impulsive as me. In fact, this is his daughter.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a conversation.
Yeah.
And, but I understand your dad. But yeah, so it was that. And then we went to Greece. And then I gave it to your cousin, actually, because I flew over with your cousin. And so I gave the ring to him because I just did not want any chance for you to go through my stuff randomly and find
clever,
it, right?
Very clever.
But I did not trust him at all. So I was stressed the whole time, like, he's going to friggin' lose it. I know he's going to lose it. And
he'd get it.
Yeah. And then we got over there and I had this exact spot. I pictured it the whole, because I'd been here before. And so we went to this one island called Hydra. And so, we took a boat over to this beautiful island. There's no cars on the island. Everything's by goat. Donkey, that's better.
Yeah,
and it was a beautiful island. And we went around and as soon as we got off the boat, I grabbed Emmy's arm and I just walked.
Yeah.
Like we just left. So we went with a bunch of people. I'm like, I don't want them to follow me. I want the space. And then we went up and there was this cafe right on the cliff edge.
Yeah.
And I took you in there outside. It was closed, but we just went in there anyway. Went in to the side. I'm like, oh, look over there. I'm going to take a photo of you.
And that another, like, I knew that's what was happening because you never took photos of
No.
me. Like, look that way. I'm just going to get my camera. Russell
Russell out of my bag, getting my camera, quotation marks, and pulled out a ring. And I told Amy to turn around and I was on my knee.
You were. And my cousin, I've got a lot of cousins. He was across the other side of the bay, just like on a walk, taking photos of everything. One thing that I was a bit bummed by was I always wanted to see my proposal recorded on photos, like or video or whatever, just because I knew my brain would immediately shut down and I wouldn't remember anything. Anyway, we didn't get that, which was totally fine. We were in an island in Greece, but we were talking that evening back at the hotel, and she's flicking through her photos, and I was like, "Oh, that's the cafe." And we zoomed in, and she'd taken a photo right as you were on your knee.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like it's very blurry, but I was like, "What are the chances that at that exact moment she took a photo in that direction?"
Yeah,
so funny.
That was so cool.
Yeah.
So that is our proposal. That's how I popped the question.
Yeah, we were on that trip for I think 2 weeks or a week, just over a week.
Yeah, then you went to Canada.
Yeah, and then I went to Canada for a friend's wedding, so I was away for a couple of weeks. So that was our first long distance stint.
Yeah, and it was just annoying straight after getting engaged.
Yeah.
But it was all right. We made it.
Yeah, we did.
We survived that.
Yeah, that's our proposal.
We did it, and I'm very proud of myself.
You did pull it together very quickly. We don't necessarily condone impulsive proposals.
No.
If you have a solid foundation, it can be fun. And in this case, worked out really well.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily condone.
And Greece is a good place.
Greece is a great place. If you happen to be going there, think of someone you can propose to.
Great. So to finish up, guys, I wanted to just share right in to us. And the reason why I want to share it is it was so encouraging. Like, we share a lot to you guys. We're quite transparent. We're quite open with the things that we struggle with, the highlights, the lowlights, whatever else. To get stories in like this is extremely encouraging to us to hear that. And again, just reinforcing that community of couples that are wanting to grow in our own individual relationships with our partners, you know. So this is just a real big plus, a green flag, a win, whatever you want to call it. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. So I'll get to this. Hello team, last weekend was my wife and my 18th anniversary and 10-year wedding anniversary, and I was lucky enough that she organised a weekend away in a glamping tent. That's what we need to do, the glamping tent, which if you haven't, just do it. Such a cool way to tap out for a couple of days. I'd like to believe that we have a pretty solid relationship, and the years we've been together is a testament to that teamwork. Like yourselves, we are always working on being our better selves and more there for each other. Not just being present, but actually being present. Since listening to your pod, there are a lot of things that I believe we already do. I humbly pat myself on the back for, and that is why we are still a great team, and even after all these years, still crazy in love with each other. But lo and behold, last weekend showed me that I am indeed taking on board and continuing my self-betterment as a husband and father, and your pod is contributing to that. That's just really, really nice to hear. Thank you, mate. Here's the lowdown. Once I found out my wife was whisking me away for the weekend, as a hot-blooded male, you'd be lying if you didn't say you hadn't thought about the ravenous things you'd get up to while isolated, kid-free, tech-free, and nothing but a romantic setting to make sure the mood is set. Well, that is until you do some quick math and realize that there is one monthly occurrence that will probably pull the e-brake on those games. I knew we'd been cutting it close, but I held hope that because she hadn't been showing her usual signs that maybe we'd jagged a winner. Wrong. The morning of the day we left, I had to head into work first to sort out a few things, and we'd meet there around 2. She rocks in and says, I need to use the toilet to sort out some business. In an instance, bye-bye dirty weekend. Never mind, off we go. We went out for a flash fancy dinner by a waterfall. It was amazing. Just a conversation without interruption was bliss, not to mention the atmosphere, fire burning, dim lights, and a couple of glasses of wine. We talked and talked and talked, like teenagers getting to know each other again, only far more intimate. We opened up deep feelings and really reconnected. Something that you don't realize is well overdue until you tap out from the rat race and have those moments together. It was so magical, and not a thought about special cuddles even came into the equation. We even spoke about topics from your episodes, funnily enough, and set some simple achievable goals. Sharing mental load, going through our love languages again, and just reinforcing we'll keep showing up for each other. We had the best weekend away and felt even more in love by the end of. And the most romantic thing we did was just communicate. Who would have thought it could be so sexy? Keep up the great work, guys. I really do look forward to your apps each week now. Man, that's so special, mate. It is so good. I don't really have anything else to say, but I just love it.
Yeah. I love the idea that there's so much to learn and connect on with your spouse.
Yeah.
When you've been together for so long, like 18 years, they said they've been together.
Yeah.
There's still a weekend away of reconnecting and connecting on levels that you haven't before.
Yeah.
And haven't for a while. So there's always communication to be had.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned it earlier before too, you know, the busyness with kids, it's so easy to not connect, or just the busyness with life. It's so easy to not connect. And, you know, just again, like just hearing his words to say like, yeah, we reconnected, you know, it was special. It was beautiful. All we did was communicate. And that was so significant. And it's been our experience of investing in communication, and that's why we're doing this. It's why we're so passionate about this, and why we keep on striving to grow and get better. It was just so special to hear that.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much for writing in.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, that was a good chit-chat.
Another one done.
Another chit-chat hits the dust. Thanks for your feedback, guys. Thanks for being a part of this podcast. Thanks for being a part of this community. We love hearing how you guys are implementing communication in your relationships as well.
Please like, share, subscribe.
Thank you.
Adios.